Yeah. All right, so D. Gordon in a groove right now. But, hey, here's some big-name guys who have yet to get it going in spring training. I mean, Mike Trout, Joey Votto, those guys, their names are always in the mix for MVP year in and year out. Mookie Betts just one hit so far. Nelly Cruz just saw a homer for him. And then Corey Seager, 2 for 18 as we're bringing inside Studio 42 with Carlos and Dan. Fran, Dan, let me ask you, you're a GM. When you're evaluating players here during the spring, do numbers like that, do they worry you as a GM?
16 at-bats? No, not at all. I care about numbers necessarily with younger players that are coming up, and more specifically if they fail, and how they react to their failure, what their emotional maturity is like, their defined focus day in and day out. I care about stats, Fran, when I look at the quality of team play. You know, our pitchers' walks, the number of strikeouts, how we execute bunt defenses, our cutoff and relays, our PFP plays. You know, I cared about the quality of the game from that standpoint. I didn't worry about our veteran players at all because I know whatever they did in the spring, there really wasn't a correlation to the season. But Carlos can enlighten us a little bit more on that from his perspective.
You know, I'm glad you thought that way because from my perspective, I went in there and I really tried to perform, even though I was working on some things.
Every player does.
Right? But at the same time, you're like, wait a second, you know, I'm an established big leaguer. I want to go out there and really work on my stuff. But check out this 2012 right here. This is my spring training. I was supposed to be working and trying to go the other way on the line, just driving the ball on the line the other way, and I hit 107.
That's kind of rough, huh?
Yeah, it was.
That's a long spring.
It was rough for me, and it really hurt me. I mean, I was like, wait a second. I know I'm a big leaguer and everything, and I'm established, but I hate to see that batting average and that type of production. Opening day, I wasn't even supposed to play. And Joe's like, you know what? I changed my mind, and then I went placata. Right here, off season's at bat, the grand slam opening day. I wasn't even supposed to be in the lineup.
Was that your first at bat?
First at bat. And then right here against Mariano, I walk it off. And that's my only hit against Mariano. 1 for 12 in the history, right, of my career against Mariano Rivera. But this goes to show you, it really doesn't really matter how you perform in spring training, as long as you don't let it affect your confidence.
Yeah, let me ask you this question, though. Players always told me that last 10 days of spring training is when they really, even if they aren't getting hits, they want to feel that their rhythm and timing was getting down to the point where they thought it could translate come opening day.
Right. You don't want to look at your numbers. What you want to do is, how am I feeling at the plate? Am I putting together some good at-bats? Am I seeing the baseball well? Am I tracking it? Do I feel comfortable? Is my timing on? That's what really you should be focused on in spring training. The numbers are secondary. Of course, for me, it was so extreme that it started to bother me, and that's why I was not in the lineup then.
But young players, let me tell you, staff people are human beings. So when a young player comes into spring training and that dude actually performs, they never forget that, because when a young man would perform in spring training, anytime we'd have a player move through the course of the season, no matter how they were playing at the minor league level, that major league staff would say, hey, what about so-and-so? How's he doing down there?
That's right.
Because so it is important for younger players that are making their first impression on major league evaluators at that stage. If they perform well, that does help their career. The other thing sometimes, Fran and Carlos, when you've got a young player that destroys spring training, you know, that might be the perfect time, if the opportunity is there, to just bring him into the season and see if he can let it roll.
Okay, real quick. I want to go back to 2012 because I think it's very important. So you struggled big time that spring training. And you mentioned it, but you kind of glossed over it. Joe Madden told you you're not starting.
That's how bad. That's how bad I was looking at the plate.
Right. So he
went to bed that night. Then
you went to bed. You thought I
was not playing opening day.
Then he changed his mind.
I walked into the clubhouse and he goes, "Hey, Carlos, you're playing." I'm like, "What are you talking about? You told me I wasn't playing." It's like I changed my mind. I was like, "Oh, what? Okay, let's get ready."
So you get in the box there. We just saw the grand slam there on CC, and then you hook up Mo right here. Your numbers against CC, I think 1 for 29.
Struggling.
I mean, at that point. So what was your mindset after a poor spring training? You thought you weren't going to play, and then you end up playing. You're in a huge situation. They intentionally walk the batter in front of you to pitch to you with the bases loaded. So what's your mindset?
Great question. You know what my mindset was?
Thank you.
Game on, buddy, because lights are on. Spring training is gone. It's a new beginning. To me, it was just a clean slate. As a matter of fact, I went in there with a little chip on my shoulder because Susan Batty had broken my hand before a couple years earlier and ended my season. So I go up there. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is it right here. I had a good plan against him. You know, was looking for that fastball up in the zone. And I got it, and I did not miss it. It felt great. And guess what? It got me in a roll. So after a horrible spring training, I had a great first 2 weeks of the season. I just rode that first game, hit a couple home runs, and I hit around 400 or something, helping out by ball club. So spring training games, yes, they're important. But when the season starts and the lights go on, it's a different story.
Trout, Votto, Betts, they're all going to be there.
They're going to be.
You better believe it.
No doubt about that. Hey, after being cooped up in the cold all winter, you can't go through spring training without having a little fun in the sun. We'll keep it clean with some good PG pranks. That's next.
MLB Tonight is presented by Camping World, America's #1 RV retailer since 1966.